everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Catherine and I am so happy that you're here. Today we're going to talk about the 5 ways that learning a martial art has made me better at being blind. Let's talk first of all about my eyesight and what I actually do and do not see. In order to have this list really make sense, it's going to be important that you actually understand a little bit about my personal eyesight. I have a 5-degree field of vision. That means that I can essentially see what is right in front of me right now, and that's it. So to give you an example, I am filming this video on my iPhone. So I have my iPhone set up on a tripod, and it's right about at face level with me. And as I'm looking at it, I can see right now, it's more than arm's length away. Looking at my iPhone on its tripod right now, if I keep my eyes still and I only focus so that I'm not using my eyes to move them around and look at the entire thing, if I just look straight ahead of me, I can see the black bar that holds the phone in place on the tripod. I can see a little bit of the color of the phone around it, and that's pretty much it. I really can't see more than that. I can't even see the camera lens where my gaze is right now. I cannot even see the camera lens on my phone. So that should give you some idea of the small field of vision that I have. For most people, normal is 180-degree fields. I have 5. So there's that. I can't even see my hand right now. Just from what I understand, most people would be able to see their hand. I cannot see my hand. So that should help you understand a little bit of just what I can actually see. Because of these limited fields, I don't have any depth perception. If you look at an illustration or a photograph or a cartoon, that's pretty much what the world looks like to me. It all looks like it's on one plane. And the only way that I know that things have depth is experience. Life has taught me that objects have depth because when you touch them, they're not two-dimensional. And shadows. Shadows help tremendously in seeing depth. Color and changes in color can help me in seeing depth, but I don't actually see depth the way most people think of it. I also have no night vision whatsoever. I am completely night blind. So that means that if I go outside at night and there are no lamps or like spotlights or floodlights around, I cannot see anything. The light of the moon, the light of the stars don't help me. None of that helps me. And even street lights and spotlights can be more or less helpful depending on how bright they are and where their light is directed. So that's my eyesight in a nutshell. I was born with this eye condition. It's called Leber's congenital amaurosis, and for me it's a recessive gene that just means that I have like a little teeny tiny amount of eyesight. But for me that eyesight is very useful. Leber's does not manifest itself in this way in everyone. My brother actually also has Leber's, and his eyesight is dramatically different from mine. We're like night and day with how our eyesight works. He reads Braille and uses screen readers to use computers. I read print. I never quite got the hang of Braille, and I think partly because I never really needed to. And I don't particularly need a screen reader for a computer, but I do appreciate having the ability to zoom in and make objects on my screen larger on occasion. There are other people who have almost no sight at all with Libras, and other people who might have even slightly better sight than I do. It just all depends on the individual. As with most anything, it depends, and it's going to vary greatly from person to person. So because this condition is from birth, congenital means from birth, and since it's from birth, I have had my entire life to learn how to work with my eyes and learn how to navigate the world safely and confidently and all of that good stuff. But there are things that I never really realized I didn't understand or felt a lot less confident about until I started training a martial art. I started training Capoeira, which is an Afro-Brazilian martial art, about 7 years ago. And what I've learned since then has not only given me more confidence and, just generally helped me to move better and be more fit, it's also helped me to learn a lot about my own eyesight and about my own body and how I move and interact with the world. So that's what I want to talk about today. The 5 major ways that training capoeira, that training a martial art, has helped me to be better at being blind. Number 1 is better proprioception. So if you don't know, proprioception is your ability to sense your body and where your body is in space. So proprioception would be knowing how long my arms are, or knowing how long my legs are, knowing how big my hand is when it's spread out, as it is right now, or when it's more like pressed together, as it is now. It's knowing how tall I am, and not so much knowing in numbers how tall I am, but actually sensing how tall I am. Being able to know that if I stand up and I decide to sit down all the way onto the floor, how far is that? And proprioception is that sensing in yourself and in your own body of where you are in space, how much physical space you take up. Thanks to training capoeira, I actually have a decent sense of how big my body is, how much space I take up, how tall am I? If I were to fall, how far is that fall actually from standing to the ground? If I wanted to just sit down from standing, how far is that? How far do I have to travel to get from standing to sitting on the floor? Knowing that when I go to do a cartwheel, knowing that without looking at the ground, I know how long my arm is and how far it's going to be for me to bend over and touch my hand to the floor to begin a cartwheel. And these are all things that you don't necessarily think about, just in day-to-day life, but knowing these things and realizing that I know these things now has given me a much deeper sense of confidence and surety in my own body, because I know how much space I personally take up and how much space I need as I move around. And just knowing that is very helpful. I know about how much space my own body takes up, and knowing that is wonderfully empowering, because I didn't really know that until I started training capoeira. And if you can learn that about yourself, it's wonderful to help you move around with more confidence and just feel like you actually know what you're doing, which is great, You know what you're doing as you're moving around, as you're walking around. That feels pretty good. Number 2 is a better kinesthetic awareness. So kinesthetic awareness plays very nicely with proprioception, where proprioception is the ability to sense where your own body is in space. Kinesthetic awareness is sensing your body as it moves through space. So where proprioception says, I know how long my arm is and how far away the floor is from my hand when I bend over. Kinesthetic awareness says, I know that I am bending over. Kinesthetic awareness has a lot to do with balance and has a lot to do with orienting yourself when you have, just spun around really fast. Or if you've done a cartwheel, it's being able to orient yourself in space as you go, because you can feel your body moving and you're aware of what your body is doing and where you physically are in space. Also helped me with my balance. And I have learned as I've progressed in capoeira and just as I've thought about myself and how I feel as I'm doing different exercises, I've learned that for me, I balance a lot better when my eyes are closed because I can focus on my body a lot more and I'm not distracted by what I'm seeing. But knowing that about myself has also helped me to know that I need to work on my balance. And so, it's helped me seek out trainers and exercises and workout programs and different things that will help me to get stronger ankle muscles, help me get stronger core muscles, and just help me in general to balance better and to move better, because I'm aware now that my kinesthetic awareness is not always at its best. And it's also helped me in terms of just general orientation and mobility when out in the world, knowing that if I get a little bit disoriented, I can just stop for a second, feel in my body, where am I? Okay, then I can use what eyesight I have to look around and see where I am. Because again, I do have some fairly useful and usable eyesight, but it's not always as helpful as I would like to think it is. So moving on to number 3. The third item on this list for me is a better awareness of my other senses. So when I first started training capoeira, because my teacher and my classmates and everyone is so used to using eyesight to train and using eyesight to interact with each other, that's how they tried to teach me, right? Said, okay, well, don't look at your partner's face, look at their shoulders, because their shoulders can tell you which way they're turning. Well, that doesn't work for me, because especially in the close quarters that we are when we actually play capoeira together, if I look at a shoulder, I can only see one shoulder at a time, if I'm lucky. And they're moving, and tracking movement is very difficult visually for me because I have a 5-degree field of vision. I'm looking through a straw, essentially. If you try and track a fast-moving object while only looking through a straw, you're not going to be able to. There's a reason I don't play games or sports that involve like fast-moving balls, like basketball or volleyball. There's a reason I don't play those sports. I've learned from firsthand experience that those types of balls really light my face, and it hurts, and I can't track them, so I can't see them coming. So, trying to track my partner in that way visually is just not helpful. It doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't help me at all. But in the process of learning how to adapt capoeira and learning how to adapt the teaching, and therefore for me, the learning of capoeira, to not being able to use my eyesight as much, I have learned to become a lot more aware of my other senses. Now, most people who are blind or visually impaired pay a lot more attention to their hearing and their sense of touch than most people whose eyesight is perfectly normal, because we have to. It's not that we're so much better at hearing. It's not that our hearing is stronger or our sense of touch is so much stronger than someone else's. It's just that we pay attention to them more because we can't pay attention to our eyesight more. It's physically impossible to pay attention to a sight you don't have, or to a sense you don't have. So instead of paying attention to our eyesight, we tend to pay attention to our ears and our hands. But what training capoeira has really taught me is that it's not just my hands that I can use for touch or for feeling to get a sense of where my partner is. I can use my legs. If my partner is coming in for a takedown, I can feel them at my legs. I can feel them with my arm as I'm defending myself. I can hear them potentially coming towards me. Some people are a lot quieter than others, so that particular example isn't always the best one. But you get what I mean. Sometimes I can hear them coming. I use hearing and I use my sense of touch, and I have gotten a lot better at not just using my hands for touch, but also using my arms, my legs, using my torso if necessary. So I've gotten a lot better at using my other senses. Again, I've had to use my other senses a lot anyway, just all throughout my life. But I've gotten a lot better at recognizing when I need to really lean on them, and also at recognizing that my eyesight is not as useful as I like to think it is. It's really not. So kind of recognizing that in capoeira, I really can't rely on my eyesight. And that means that probably in the rest of my life, I can't rely on it nearly as much as I thought I could. Going along with that, number 4 is that training capoeira has made me better at communicating my needs with other people. It can be as simple as just going up to a teacher ahead of time and saying, hey, this is what I need, or as big as, wow, I'm completely lost, I don't understand, and I need help figuring out how to get someplace, or I need help figuring out how to do this thing differently. Again, this is something that I've had to do my entire life, but it's something that, it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to have to admit to other people that you don't got it and that you need help. And it's uncomfortable sometimes just to feel different and to always feel like you're the one asking for help and needing to ask for help. And it's okay to have to ask for help, and it's certainly something that, again, I've had to do my entire life. But until starting to train capoeira and really starting to understand just what I need in terms of being able to fully participate, and then realizing that I need to get a lot better at communicating that with other people, because if I'm going to a workshop and I'm working with teachers and fellow students and all whom I've never met before this particular day, I need to be able to say real fast, okay, I'm blind, can you please explain that? Or I'm blind, can you please, make a little bit of noise when you move? And just being able to actually not only understand what my needs are, but then being able to verbalize those. Because sometimes also understanding what you need and being able to actually express what you need are two very different things. And so for me, I've known that I've struggled with, possibly knowing where someone else is in the room or knowing what's going on at the front of the class, but I've not really known how to express what the problem actually is and what I actually need from the teacher or another student, or just another human being. But through training capoeira, I've learned more about what my limitations are, and therefore I've learned how to express and how to verbalize what I need from people. And it's something I'm still working on. It's something I'm still learning. It's probably something I will be learning for the rest of my life. But I'm better at it now than I was. And a big part of that has been training in a martial art and really learning how my body works, doesn't work, how my eyes do and don't work, and just getting better at quickly figuring out what I need from people and figuring out how to say that in a way that they'll understand and that they'll be able to respond to. And the last thing on this list is acceptance of my own limitations. Now, I'm not saying that I am just going to accept that, oh, I can't do it, it's fine, whatever, I'm okay with that now. I mean acceptance of the things that I really and truly cannot change. And acceptance of the fact that there are things that sighted people are able to see, understand, communicate, whatever, that I will never be able to see, understand, or communicate. So a really big example of this, and we can talk more about this in another video, I think it's a really good topic to dive into, but a really good example of this is body language. I do not read body language. I have no reference for it aside from major changes. You know, I can see a big smile or a frown. I can see if someone's really hunched over or sitting up straight, but I can't see it all together. I don't get those little nuances of body language where people come in and they're like, oh, that person looks upset. That person looks mad. Well, to me, upset and mad look very similar. They almost look the same. They probably do look the same to me if I'm being really honest with myself. I don't get the little nuances of facial expressions. I don't get that when your voice sounds harsh and angry, but your eyes are sparkling. I don't get the sparkle in the eye. All I'm going on is the sound of the voice. All I'm going on is, really the sound of the voice. I'm not getting those little nuances. I don't see the wink to let me know that you're just joking. I don't see the little bit of a grin to let me know that maybe you're not actually angry. I just don't see those things. I can talk about them because I've heard other people talk about them, and so I know they exist. I know they're a thing. And I'm sure I put some of those things forward myself because it's just natural human behavior to do some of these things, but I don't actually see them. And so because I don't see them, I don't read them, and I don't know that they're there. I also have a hard time deliberately communicating in that way. As I've said, I'm sure I do some of these things. I'm sure I communicate through visual body language because it's just a normal human thing to do. But to deliberately give a wink or to deliberately use body language as really effective communication, or even in the case of capoeira, in that sort of little bit of trickery that capoeira is fairly well known for. I really don't know how to do that. I don't know how to visually express, joy or happiness aside from a smile. I don't know how to visually express through movement and through, just the way, the appearance I'm giving off from my expressions. I don't know how to visually express sadness aside from a frown. But a frown could also be angry. A frown could also be disappointed. I don't know how to express those things differently. I don't understand. I don't understand how to receive that visual communication from someone else because I can't see it. I've never in my entire life been able to see it. And it's not until fairly recently that I've fully understood just what that means in terms of my limitations when interacting with others and when interacting and trying to be expressive in an art form that is visually very expressive with the human body. You know, that visual body language is something that the farther along you get in your training in capoeira, you begin to be encouraged to really use. I don't know how to use that at all. Like I really, this is a subject I've been struggling with for a while now, and I just don't know how to use it. I don't understand it. And so finally being able to accept that and saying, okay, this is not something I'm just going to be able to learn. Learning to accept my limitations, not only in the, oh, I need to make sure I remember to ask for help, but also remembering that, yes, I have some limitations. I don't do body language. I don't understand it. I don't communicate it well deliberately. But I have these other things that I can do instead. I have this other way that I can work around it. But by accepting that limitation, I can find that other workaround. I can't find that workaround if I'm still stuck on the, but how do I do it this way? How do I do it the way everyone else is doing it? Well, I'm not going to do it the way everyone else is doing it because I can't. And by accepting that I can't, I can figure out a way that I can do something. I can figure out a way that something can work for me. And I can begin to understand that just because I can't do something the way everyone else does, just because I can't communicate and receive communication through visual body language, does not mean that I'm broken. It doesn't mean that I'm wrong. It just means that I'm different. And that's really a beautiful thing to understand. So just remember, if you have limitations, if you have to do things differently from other people, if you can't communicate the same way that everyone else does, you're not wrong and you're not broken. You're just different. And it might be difficult to figure that out. It might be difficult to accept that. And I can almost guarantee it's going to be difficult to figure out how you communicate and how you express yourself when everyone around you is only speaking in visual terms because that's what they know. It's really hard to figure out the workaround. But once you accept the fact that you need the workaround, you can figure out how to work around what everyone else is doing to make it something that works for you. And then the really beautiful part here, and this is something that I'm really looking forward to exploring more, the really beautiful part is once you've figured out that workaround, you can then show others how you do it and invite them to come into your world instead of you always having to go into their world. And once you figure that out and realize that that's something that you can do, it's a really powerful tool. And it is the most wonderful feeling to realize that you're not broken and that not only can you communicate, not only can you navigate, not only can you do whatever it is you're trying to do in a different way from other people, but you can also invite other people into your world to communicate with you in a similar way, to find a workaround to whatever the limitation is, whatever the problem is, to figure out how to work around it. You can invite others into that space also. And you can either all work on it together, or you can share what you've learned and how you figure something out. And we can all learn and grow together and become better friends, better colleagues, better students, better whatever. Because accepting those limitations can free up so much mental space to actually make an improvement. So those are the 5 ways that training a martial art, and for me specifically, that training capoeira has made me better at being blind. And I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe to this channel and hit the little bell so that you're notified every time I post a new video. And let me know in the comments, do you train a martial art? And if you do, what is it? And what are some things that you have learned from your training? I'd love to hear about them. All right, everyone, I hope you have an awesome day. And until next time, see ya.